You already dealt with it.
I got the letter. We'll get it.
All right, the recording has started.
All right,
Okay.
ready to go?
About a minute.
Jason explained to me my option B, what I was hoping for.
Oh, good. Got it all settled? Mhm.
Thank you, Jason. And that's your document. Did you get that back to me?
Well,
He
yeah.
has to keep it.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
That's your.
I got it.
Does Dan need to call in? I mean, not.
Is it not coming in?
I asked
Like,
him, he hasn't let me know.
He'll be at the city council meeting though.
He will get the meeting.
Yeah, he talked to me while he.
But the actual workshop.
Okay, it
I
is
can't speak.
5:00. We are going to start our meeting. Kelly is running a little late.
You can call
Excuse
it
me,
to that
Council Member
You
McClymonds.
can call into that number if you.
Yeah, should we call him?
I don't. Wow.
I sent him the number, but I don't know if he got
What's
it.
his number? I can call him and see if he answers.
Oh, well, we're on recording now.
Oh.
So, here.
Damn.
Do you want me to call him?
Here. Okay. We're just gonna call on the speaker.
See if it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am here and Council Member Rock is here. Council Member McClymonds will be here shortly. I did not see any changes to be made on the minutes for the September 17th. So we've proven the minutes. Yes. Okay, great. Minutes. And we just have one discussion item, which is Jason momentarily. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. Loud and clear. Are you okay to
Yeah.
listen to Jason talk
good.
for a few minutes about the
great.
RCO
I can-
grant?
Hey, yes.
Okay. So our discussion action items are AB 24-105, Resolution R 24-105, Allen York Park Boat Trailer Parking Recreation and Conservation Grant, RCO grant. Take it away, Jason.
All right, so tonight we have two primary questions that we are asking the committee to weigh in on. The first is related to the conceptual design for the boat trailer parking, and then also whether or not we should move forward with getting a grant from the RCO. As you know, earlier this year, back in May, the council authorized us to sign a contract with Parametrics to begin designing a boat trailer parking lot on top of the old city hall site. We had kind of a rough sketch at that point. Our Parametrics has gone out and done surveying to find out where things are located, where the wetlands are, what the wetland buffers need to be, where the actual physical constraints are on the property, and has produced an updated conceptual design that's a little bit different than what we had initially briefed the council on. So we wanted to show kind of the updated version. Mainly where the kind of the parking lots are, the new vehicle parking toward Bonney Lake Boulevard, and also kind of how the access will work. It's a little bit different than we had initially proposed. Before we got into spending a lot of money and design by going and picking up grades, which is in the contract, but try to be responsible with our finances. We wanted to make sure that the council was okay with the way we've got everything laid out, and if this is what the council is thinking about with moving forward. The second question, and I think the more pressing question, is whether or not the council wants us to submit for a RCO, and RCO stands for Recreation Conservation Office. It's a state agency, and they have a boating facilities program. The boating facilities program was created in 1964 to provide grants to help develop boating facilities, which includes boat trailer parking lots as part of that facility. They can provide up to $1 million of grant. The project's currently $4.5 million in construction, so we would be requesting the full $1 million and to help offset the cost of that grant, offset the cost of that construction. Prior to applying for the grant, the city council has to pass a resolution authorizing us to apply. The grant deadline is the end of the month. So, we're asking that, council take action on this in the next 2 weeks so that we have time to write the grant application and get it turned in before the end of the month. One way or the other. Everybody asked me what the strings are, and I think the kind of the three big strings that I think are the ones that council needs to consider is it's the same strings that got attached to Allen York Park. So we would be required to maintain it as a boating facility in perpetuity. We would no longer be able to restrict the boat trailer parking to residents only because it's an RCO grant. And then whatever we charge for residents, we can't charge non-residents more than 200% or twice as much. And if there's no fee for residents, there can't be a fee for a non-resident. So that's kind of the same issues we've been working with through Allen York Park. It isn't a small grant. It's not like $250,000. It's an $1 million grant. So we just wanted to have the CDC weigh in on that and move it to as a full council discussion item on October 8th.
Do we have any other RCO boat related grants currently?
No, we've never actually received a boating facilities grant. And that's on, if you go to page 20 of the packet, it has a list of all the grant recipients from 1965 all the way to 2015. We've gotten other RCO grants. We got one to purchase the property. We got a ball field grant for ball field 5, but they're different. They have like different granting programs that have different funding sources.
Okay.
And we've never actually received one under the boating facilities grant program. One thing I did bring up to Councilmember Fuller or Chair Fullerton was when we go to rebuild the boat launch, we will probably have to rely on this type of program to help rebuild the boat launch, which would have the same caveats of it not being restricted to residents only. So
And we're gonna have to rely on this for the boat launch?
I would say, yeah, trying to build a boat launch without any sort of grant.
You
I
have to
mean,
rely on it for one, you may as well rely on it for both.
that's kind of, it's something to consider.
And I'm sorry, yeah, how many boat splits do we have? Is it
I think currently
48?
we have 26 that we've kind of put in front of ball field number 4, which has created its own problems. Because when people want to use the ball field during the summer, they can't park in front of the ball field because we're using it for boat trailer parking. And we have about 26 stalls there. I believe the design effort takes us up to 52 spots.
Okay.
So it does double the number of spaces.
Counting them.
Yeah, it does double the number of spaces, but it removes it also solves the conflict issue that we're having with ball field 5. Which,
And we can add gates so we can charge for parking.
mhm.
We're gonna add a book so that they have to show their permit to get inside.
Yeah.
Or if they do a day pass,
Yeah.
how are we set up the financial structure? If it's only if you have a season pass,
Okay.
then yes, you would have to show your season pass and come in that way.
Okay.
What
What is the application process for them to do that currently?
currently they have to file an application and show that they're city residents, and that's done by the police department. We don't currently have a season pass for non-residents.
Not resident.
And because of the limited capacity, we have been kind of restricting it to residents only, temporary, the last couple of years, because of the issues with the loss of the boat trailer parking on the old ball field 5 side.
Okay.
And so we do need to move the facility. It's really a question of the understanding that, I guess, the long-term ramifications of accepting the grant.
Which we already have basically the same restrictions in perpetuity on the Allen York. So, basically it's just gonna make it so that it's kind of,
Piece of it.
right? So it's gotta be open to everybody, not just residents. And then, so that's one red flag. And then the second red flag, has to stay a boat trailer parking lot in perpetuity. So
Forever.
basically forever, yeah. And then, the rates for non-residents cannot be more than double. And then, right, and then you can't charge residents zero and then try to charge
It's gotta be
non-residents something. Yeah, it has
Double
to, it has to be a
still
number
zero.
and then you double that number.
Okay.
So,
And the council could require it to be a season pass only type program.
mhm.
That the only way you can launch is if you have a season
Yeah.
pass. You can't just drive up that day and launch.
Yeah.
So that's
Simplify the application process too. It'd be one application instead of every time they wanted to launch.
yeah. Well, every day they did, every time they launched, they would have to just go pay with a credit card or something like that.
Okay.
But you wouldn't get the, oh, North Lake is full, so I'm gonna drive around the lake,
Okay.
right? You'd have a little bit more control of it. Oh, I'm gonna go take the boat out today and I can't get in there. I'll drive around at the southern launch. So that would be one way you could still control kind of the,
But if you're selling it as a season pass, you would have to limit the number that you sold in the entirety of the season, right? So that you had a spot for everyone.
No,
that had
because-
pre-purchased it,
No, because not every, it's first come, first serve. And then,
even with having
Yeah.
pre-bought a
So-
season pass.
yeah, that's how we do. We sold, I think this year, I think we sold 235 season
Okay.
passes. Cause there's different people that use the boat launch in different ways. Some people launch their boat and then they live close, so they just take they take their vehicle home and they don't park there. And not everybody launches on every single day.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
it
So that
is
would just be
like-
something we want to explore once it's built and we get into the operational side of it.
But if we offer a season pass, then we have to residents, we have to offer a season pass
to
to
non-resident,
to non-residents.
but you
So,
could double the price of it.
correct.
Yeah.
So if it's $50, just
Yeah.
hypothetically, $50 for residents and
Got
$100.
the numbers, yeah.
But, and that, as I told Councilmember Fullerton, that's always where the tricky part comes, because if you set the resident rate really, really low, you're not getting it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not high enough to where you would like for the non-residents, so it's finding out where that balance is.
Yeah. And if it's gated, then there's the cost of gate maintenance.
Right, well, and
It's
then we
expensive.
would also have to decide if we wanted to do, since a lot of the residents don't park their boat at the boat launch, don't use the boat launch parking. So do we want to charge separately for parking the trailer, or do we want to have, the season pass include
Launch.
the
and the
parking, right? But if we do that, again, we can only double the cost, so we could do two different ones, or we could just do, we could do a parking pass, or we could, and a seasonal launch pass, or we could just combine it, but then we're gonna lose money on that for sure. Because, usually it's like, oh yeah, you do 10 times and then it's free after that essentially. So it would be 20 times for the non-residents. Right, so it might behoove us, especially if we're having to build out this boat trailer parking, we might want to charge separately for that. So that we can kind of at least maintain it and pay for it. It's not cheap, that's for sure, but
So do we want to move this forward to full council? I don't think.
Okay.
Councilmember
Hey,
McClung?
Jason,
Yes.
I have a question. Can you walk us through the development timeline? So like, we're gonna apply for the grant. When do we get the money? How long do we have to spend it? When do we have to start spending money versus money or $1 million right now is a lot of park money? Cause this would come out of the park CIP, wouldn't it? Over.
Yes, and the park CIP could initially handle the expenditure. we've already have the design under contract and are moving forward with the design, so we would be applying for a construction grant. And so we would have to apply by the end of the year. We would get notified sometime in April of next year. And then we would be able to begin spending after April, once all the granting documents are signed. So probably next summer, which is about the same time we expect to be able to go under construction anyway, because we're still in the design effort. We have to do design and bid and and move forward that way.
Yeah, but how long can we wait to start spending our own money? Is that a year? Is it 18 months? Is it 24 months? I mean, cause
Like, can we hold on?
you know, cause we ask for the bid, once we ask for the grant, if we don't spend the money, then that's bad news if we decide not to spend the money for one reason or another.
I think typically, once you accept the grant, you have to begin, I think it's a year. But that's all within the grant agreement. What I want to say is typically 1 to 2 years. And that would be being complete with the project.
You have to have it completed in 2 years
Yeah.
of receiving the funds.
Yeah.
Is that realistic?
Yeah, I mean, it would be one summer, or it would be probably a couple, it's a parking lot, I mean, with a gate. It's not super complex project. You're not building buildings. So, you know, our kind of estimated timeline is if we could get under construction next summer, it would probably be open for the summer of 2026 constructions.
That'd be our 200.
Yeah, so if we do this, does that mean we're not doing anything in Midtown for a couple of years?
The current capital facilities plan has us starting doing design efforts in 2026 on the ball fields.
Two to three.
2 to 3 years to spend everything out. We have to have the project completed 3 years from the time that we sign the grant application. So you could move it to 2026 or 2027.
Recommend approve a project for up to 4
4
years.
I will say that the current CIP I think is starting to do some design work for the ball fields in 2026. The current estimate to build the full ball fields is about $37 million. So we'd have to come up with a completely different funding package for the ball fields, which we would be looking at for 27, 28. So I guess if you took the grant in 2025, are you still there?
There's a pause and then Jason talks and then.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Have we seen that whole plan and timeline of that spending? Did I miss it while I was on vacation?
It was in the PTRO plan, and then the 2-year CIP is coming to council next week.
Okay, so it's what was in the original plan,
Yeah,
not something different. Okay.
and this was one of the first, so the way the plan was developed was we would finish up the boat trailer parking because we have issues with boat trailer parking, Field 4, parking at Allen York Park in generally. We would finish up that project and then switch our attentions to the other parks in the city and kind of put the rest of the improvements on Allen York Park way out in the future, and then spend time working on Midtown Park and the downtown park, and beginning to move those plans forward.
But that parking lot is gonna take the full $1 million grant so that it's used within the timeline.
Yeah,
Well, it's at 4.5 and then that will
Oh,
bring it
that's
down
right.
to
I did write that
3.5.
down.
Yeah.
yeah, and currently I think the CIP has it in there. And it still allows us to move forward with some design efforts and smaller projects. Oh, there's Kelly.
Nice.
Yeah, so it allows us to still move forward. I'm not gonna slide back over here and see if I can pull it out.
So what do you guys think? It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but it also has to be done because we can't continue to keep the ballpark 4 from parking
Yeah,
in their parking lot.
kind of a checkbox. isn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a very expensive parking lot.
Yeah, what makes it $4.5 million?
A lot of it's the grading
You're gonna say.
and stormwater. Cause it's all new pollution generating surface,
Surface
so
or impervious.
impervious surface, so, and it's a lot. And instead of building stormwater pond, we're gonna have to do things under the parking lot and bury them, which adds cost. And then also the site is kind of where the buildings are is level, but then it drops way off. So we have to raise the site and then reconfigure the driveways to make everything work. And that's where kind of the grade, I think it's mainly the grading cost. Cause it's at, and who knows if, you know, how the bidding climate's gonna be. This is our best guess based on before we even have a design. We may be able to do some value engineering to figure out ways to reduce cost, but that's kind of our estimate. It's about $4.5 million. Before we did the design work, because that's what we're in the process of doing now. So to answer your question is, we have in 2025 and 2026, we have $750,000 in the budget to begin doing the design work for the pickleball courts, the multi-sport courts, the restrooms, the parking in 25 and 26. So we're going to start the design effort so we can get a better estimate. We have money in for Cedar View Park in 2026, some work in Viking Park for 2026, wayfinding for the trail system in 2026, ADA improvements in 2026, and then also at Allen York Park doing upgrading the tennis courts because they're kind of cracked right now, and then at the same time striping them for pickleball and tennis still. So trying to spread out at least moving all the parks forward in a different capacity.
Can we stripe the boat trailer parking lots for pickleball? For pickleball and.
Sure. We've also thought about other ways that we could use that. And one other thing, and I think Councilmember Davis brought this up, and we'd have to explore it and see what the risk and ramifications are, is since it's not part of the ball field anymore, in the winter months, can we rent out the spots for dry storage of boats? When we're
That's
not-
a great idea.
That was Councilmember Davis's idea.
That is a great idea.
So in the winter months, you could park your trailer there with your boat on it
That is a great idea.
from the end of the boating season to the beginning of the next boating season. We'll charge you a monthly fee. We'd have to figure out how that works and what the cost would be. Yeah, the risk liability, there's some things to work out, but it's an ideal.
Talk to the insurance guy.
It's an ideal to explore. It will be 100% fenced in because we don't want people to come at it from different directions. So it will be completely fenced with a single gate in and out. But that would be a way to not say generate revenue, but it would be a way to recoup cost that would go back into the park CIP to pay for other projects.
Right.
So this is that weird one where you might be able to build a park improvement that has a way of generating revenue that then can help go back into the CIP to pay for projects in other areas of the city.
Sure.
That parking lot would be full,
Give
guaranteed.
Councilmember Davis a raise.
That was his idea. He asked me and I'm like, oh, I never thought about it, but it would sit empty
Yeah.
during the
9
winter,
months out of the year.
9 months out of the year. You have 52 spots. I don't know how much they charge.
$150 if it's totally secure. You could easily do $150 per
Yes.
spot.
So that'd be $5,200, like plus another 2,600, so about 7,800, almost $8,000 a month for 9 months. You're talking about almost.
And 9 months might be a stretch, but you could at least say 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even that's over $500,000 a year.
That's, yeah.
That would go back into the park CIP to help fund other projects. have to work out the liability and risk and all those things, but from a financial standpoint, it's definitely a good way of,
Not quite sure it's 500,000, but it's not nothing.
well, 8,000 times eight is,
64,000. 640.
am I doing my math wrong? Okay,
That's arithmetic.
yeah, I'm not good, I'm not an engineer, I'm a social scientist.
Yeah.
So it'd be $100,000.
Yeah.
Ish a year that we
Which
could,
is more than we're getting on the.
It's,
prices,
it's
yeah.
it's worth doing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's also a service, right? I mean, you're actually,
Yes, providing a
right,
service.
providing a service as well, right?
And
So it's,
I know people would,
and once again, you could say residents pay one rate, non-residents pay twice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So residents pay
Yeah.
$100, non-residents pay $200, or 150 and 300, whatever that path looks like at the end.
so I talked to a constituent this morning about this, and they didn't bat an eye at 4.5 million for boat trailer parking lot. A constituent who boats every summer, right, and was really upset about the whole thing. So I asked them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like, hey, what do you think? And they were like, no, $4.5 million, that's a mess down there, right?
Mhm.
Like, if that's what it takes to fix it, yeah. I was really surprised, because it's probably about as cheap as I am.
And the thing to keep in mind is it solves two problems. One, in the front of the old building, we're gonna put in a small parking lot
Mhm.
to provide additional parking for both the senior center and for the park. And then all of the parking that used to be back in front of ball field 4, which I think was like 80 spots, goes back, or like maybe it was 50 spots, goes back on as
For the
parking
ballpark.
and for the park as a whole.
Yeah.
So you'll pick up about also 70 to 80 parking stalls for Allen York Park, which is addresses another problem that we've had down there.
We're not gonna be charging senior citizens to park for the senior center.
We're trying to figure out a way to make sure it all works well together, but no.
Okay. I don't know if that means we're gonna have to like mark it and say senior parking only, or,
What we did this year is we just gave all the seniors a window cling that they hung in their car. And when the police came through, if they saw that hanging down, they just moved on.
okay.
And we're trying to find a better system, but yes.
There's a way of doing it.
Yeah, there is a way for the senior center not to have to pay for parking during that window that we do paid parking from June to, it ended today.
Mhm.
There's no more paid parking at Allen York Park. It ends at 9 o'clock tonight.
Oh,
I don't know
October.
whose
It's like-
idea that was.
It's like 8 AM tomorrow morning.
Probably Kelly.
No.
Before me, I'm not a
it ain't-
fan of that paid parking.
And
I know you all think it serves a purpose. Crime is down everywhere. I don't know.
it's a dual
I know. We've talked about it. I've heard all the sides. I just have my own opinion.
We did, the problem is, we did everything all at once, so we don't know causality,
Yeah.
right? Cause we said, we added uniformed police officers, we changed the way we did security, we put them at the boat trailer parking, and we changed everything all at once, which is fundamentally usually a problem when you're debugging a problem, but, well, we solved the problem.
Yeah.
Or, no, I hadn't thought of your take. Did we solve the problem, or was the problem getting solved already? Right, cause people say crime is down, or is crime just not being reported? Anyway, I'm happy.
all I can say is from us looking at the park, we saw less alcohol use. We saw less calls for service, and we'll be briefing the public safety committee on a final, like, this is what we experienced. We saw more families in the park for the first time in multiple years. So, and the thing is that we've had, I know we're off topic a little bit, but the conversations around that we've heard is, well, our property taxes go to Allen York Park to pay for Allen York Park isn't truly really the way it works. The property taxes and the sales taxes are collected, go to pay for the maintenance of the park, but all the actual purchase of the park was a state
Yes.
grant.
Yeah.
And then when we do improvement, that comes from real estate tax or grants. So really that yearly property tax doesn't pay for those things. And then any parking fee we do collect by code returns to the park CIP to build new park projects. So
I know.
it is a tricky issue. I don't
We
just,
resolve the issue of what we're doing when people are there parking, like if you book the ballpark, there's so many parking spots. I know we had talked about
we
that, 'cause
fixed,
that would work out.
we solved the problem this year. We're looking now for a long-term solution that we'll be proposing to city council, but probably in January. We know that that's an issue and we're trying to figure out how to work with it. We did do a short-term solution to get us through
This year.
August and September with the I-9 Sports and MRAC. When Little League came in June, we didn't
That
have
would be
pay,
in place.
we didn't have it
Yeah.
in place, so it wasn't our
That would be the
top,
big one.
it wasn't our top
Got
priority.
it.
It will be next
I'm
year.
curious to see what you present on
Yeah.
that for spring though.
We've got a couple ideas.
Okay, okay.
I know.
We have a couple ideas that we think will work. But we're gonna bring those in, we're gonna bring a whole lessons learned on this part. There's a lot of things that council's asked us to look into.
Mhm.
And we wanna just, in January, once we get through the budget, bring those forward and have a discussion around, here are options. But back to, I'm
I
sorry,
know.
back to this one. I
I'm
just want to,
sorry. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. Every
No, no,
time
no.
it's mentioned, it's like this big.
Part about building a good committee, right, is asking all the questions.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we gotta have a
Yeah.
good working relationship.
I just wanted to make sure we had time to make sure we get direction on this. If you just want to, I didn't expect it to be on consent and calendar. It's too big of a decision. I've always expected it to be a full council item.
So if we go for this grant, when we go to improve the boat launch, will that count against us?
No,
Because the boat launch is gonna be way more important.
way more. It
When
won't,
is that projected to be done?
I don't have it, not till 10 or 15.
Okay,
We're talking
okay.
years where they won't be like, oh, the city just received a grant. It'll be like, oh, the city received a grant like a
10 or
decade
15.
ago, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Cause to do it, we have to relocate the road. It will be a big, it's one of our biggest projects out there.
I
We
heard some
probably won't be
hesitation.
here when that happens.
I thought I heard hesitation over all the constraints. Right?
Well,
'Cause
I
was
just wanted to
concerned
know
about-
what the red flags were because I wanted those up front where, so that, we can present that to council. Because it seems like a lot of times we come back to that grant and we're like, wait a minute, where did it say that? Or, why did we take that grant then? So this way we have the red flags out there. They're front and center. And, council, when they make the decision, can make it based off of knowing that the red flags are there.
So did we talk about if we apply for the grant and ask for $1 million, if they give us back $1.98?
Council does not have to accept it at that point.
Okay, so would you let us not accept it if they did that? I mean, if you go, well, if we do this, if we don't accept it, then it's gonna be hard to get other grants.
No, I think if
Right. I
if
mean,
they
it's
come back and
gonna
say,
be-
you asked for $1 million and we're only gonna give you 75 cents,
Yeah,
or, we would say no, and I could say it's because the strings that then are attached aren't worth the grant of value that you're giving us.
sure, okay.
Mhm.
Do we know
That,
what that threshold is that 100,000?
I think that's a policy question that we'd have to see when they come back. Yeah, I don't know, if is it $750,000 enough?
Yeah,
In my opinion, that's a lot, that's only, that's 3/4 of what we asked for. If it's $100,000, probably not.
well, I was
And
gonna
if we're
say,
gonna
yeah,
have
so
to-
100,000, it has to be more than $100,000 for us to say, oh, no, we're not gonna charge a lot of money for non-residents, and even if we let non-residents in,
Mhm.
if we're spending $4.4 million for residents money, so where'd the CIP money come from, the park fund?
So park revenue comes from two primary funding well, technically three primary funding sources now. The first and biggest one is a portion of the real estate excise tax is dedicated. I want to say it's 20 or 30% goes directly to the park CIP. And you can only use REIT money for capital improvements. We send part to streets, we send part to parks, and we send parts to general government. They're broken down that way. And then you've got the other funding source, primary funding source is park impact fees. You will be getting a briefing in January on the rate study for park impact fees. I will tell you, the amount that you could charge is not the amount we think you will charge. So I'm just telling that to the committee, because when you get the number, it's massive based on our preliminary discussions with the consultant. We don't expect you to charge that. It's going to be, you would laugh when you see it. Trust me, I laugh. So, I guess keep putting that as a caveat. So when people get it,
Yeah, disclaimer.
we know this is not what you're going to charge, but we have to say this is the max. So that's the other funding source. And now the parking fees from out your park in there. So that's your three kind of dedicated funding sources.
And boat storage.
Yes, if we build it, we could have the boat storage as another dedicated funding source. And we're looking at other funding sources, like can we do advertisements? Can we, like, at the stadium, at the ball fields, can we lease space that they put up the shop at Crumble Cookie? Like they do down at Sunset Stadium in Sumner. As another way of generating.
Signs on the fence.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of money, but it just as another way of generating
It helps, yeah.
fun. And the same when we built the ball fields, out at Midtown Park, we want to do the same thing. But those are currently our three funding sources.
Too bad we didn't put more concessions in. I think we should rent some of the spaces to food trucks.
We
There's games going on.
when
Or even during the summer down
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah, and one thing I know up at Ball Field 5, there is one plug-in for a food truck
Mm.
that we put in when we built that ball field. There's the outlet that you can do
And I think in our PTRO plan, we dedicated some spots for food trucks, right?
yes,
I know we had discussed that.
what we did is when we're doing like Bonney Lake days and we shut down the boat launch, where the new boat launch queuing area would be, could also be used for food trucks. At Midtown Park, we actually proposed building another concession stand that you could then lease out to somebody to do the concessions, and then you get a cut of the profits.
How does the current concession stand at Allen York Park work?
We get a cut of the gross profits.
Okay.
We'll be doing a new RFP this year.
Someone just leases the space.
Pretty
for
much
guys,
only
they
sell, like,
present
ice cream
sales, and then
cones.
you give a
Yeah, you can only do so
There's
much
little
at the
snacks
permitting
and ice
level,
cream.
like
Yeah.
food permitting level.
Yeah, there's only certain things they can do, and they also do the kayaks.
They have the kayaks.
So
We have to let them do the kayaks, because otherwise they don't have enough money to do the concession.
that's what I heard too.
That's kind of like a drug.
We just-
right?
Also, I think a benefit for citizens, so if they want to rent a kayak and go down there, it's a good thing to have the park.
So we're gonna
Love to have that.
Yeah.
do a new RFP, probably here in a couple weeks to
RFP.
request for proposals,
Thank you.
and issue it and see, because there's some things that we also need to change based on things we're doing down at Allen York Park. And that RFP would go out, people would bid on it. And then we would bring that back to the council to sign a new lease with either the new vendor, the current vendor, or a new vendor.
Okay.
So we want to go through that process this fall.
We're gonna take this forward?
Yes,
Okay.
we're gonna put it on full council for October 8th. That sound
For
good?
sure.
Yeah. I don't think this is one we want to
No.
make a decision on our own.
I never expected to go on. Usually I ask, do you want the second seat? This one I was like,
Kelly
yeah.
will be pulling it off.
So, and the no action is we wind up spending 4.5 million instead of
Right.
3.5.
Yeah,
Right.
And if you're already gonna have, like Gwendolyn had said, if you already have, the park has to be open to everybody, and then later the boat launch has to be open to everybody. It's just the third piece of it. At least we can charge double for
Yeah,
non-residents.
because
That's
we're
a
gonna
really
have
great
to go
option.
after the RCO grants in order to build the boat launch down the road. And so, and it's gonna have the exact same restrictions,
Sure.
so we may as well, as
Just
long
lump it
as
all
we're
together.
making it happen. It's just gonna be, yeah.
And that's assuming we're successful in getting the grant too, because we could apply and they could go,
Listen, after all this talk, you better get it, Jason. No.
try. I've met with the granting agencies to get insights on how to make our grant even better. Okay, stomach pain, but-
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Our representatives about getting us some love in
Mhm.
other ways.
And that's another option too,
Yeah,
is to,
Mhm.
as, I don't know how well they're gonna do this year because they're already talking tight budgets, but yes, other options for park funding is getting set asides at the state level from,
the community funds.
yeah.
Yeah, the local community fund, which we have for the senior center and then the playground.
Right.
And we might be able to try to find in that 3-year window while we're doing the design,
Yeah,
reach out to the legislature to see if they would kick in any amount.
Whatever we can get.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And do we know what's happening with our little playground there?
Yeah, so I'm wrapping up, I'm sending them over an updated costing sheet for their application, and then we'll get that contract back. There's still some notification I have to do for the tribes, and then that's about a month-long process. But we'll get all that documentation and come back to council for review.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on the timeline for that.
And we
Yeah.
have like a blanket answer for people now.
Yeah, it's on the website.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't noticed anybody emailing me about the playground.
Yeah,
Now we're
lately,
like,
so-
we're gonna get it ready for the spring.
yeah, it'll be ready for this. But we also plan to do like a legislative agenda this fall, so once, we can list this, if you decide to move forward on this funding, we can put that on the legislative agenda, so our legislators are aware that we're going after this funding and how they can advocate for us as well.
And in Midtown Park, the county's also reached out to me about possible partnerships. Cause they recognize that they have a issue both on field space and recreational issues out here in unincorporated Pierce County for the county residents.
Mhm.
And are trying to find ways to partner with cities to try to address those gaps. So, they've reached out and asked if we'd be interested in kind of having those conversations and coming to that table. And I said, yes.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have to hesitate on that one. And so they're kind of going through their thought process right now and will be reaching out to us probably this fall and winter to have those conversations about what a partnership would look like.
Yeah.
And entail, and it would eventually be developed into an interlocal agreement that comes through the.
Maybe we can get them to join in on the parking lot. Since Pierce County likes to use the voting too.
Maybe,
Yeah, or the Reed property.
yeah, and we're also talking about, they've reached out and talked about recreation as well, so it might not be another venue to explore. We're kind of not even on the launch pad, we're just, hey, is there a way to work, is there a way to work together?
Mhm.
Let's see if we can figure it out.
Let's see if we can figure that out.
So who's working with MRAC on the Reed property now?
That is kind of
Finance just met with them.
it's kind of on a hold because the MOU expired. And so I believe the mayor is reaching out to Scott and all to see kind of what steps to do next, but the MOU itself expired on August 31st. So it expired a month ago, and so it's kind of, everything the city was required to do under the MOU, we completed. So it's now just kind of the mayor's reaching out to Scott to see kind of what his thought processes are.
But the water utility no longer owns it.
No,
The city owns it.
the city, the park utility is maintained, the park crews are now maintaining it. So when it has to be mowed or something goes out there now, Lance and his crew go out there and take care of it versus the water utility.
So should we focus on that next beautified Bonney Lake? Everybody go to the Reed property, keep this place up.
We're trying.
Hopefully it'll be all mowed out, leveled and have some fields on it by then.
Good.
Yeah, so we're still kind of in I think, a holding pattern on that one. And because Scott was really driving it as a private development, our focus has been on downtown park, midtown park, and Holiday Park.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we pulled a lot of weeds at Allen Yard Park for you by Bonney Lake, where you were at. I didn't see you.
No, you didn't see me. It was my anniversary. I was in
Oh,
Montana
well.
with my wife.
Did you guys have a good trip?
No.
Oh.
I was at a football game. We had tickets to the
I was
Husky.
like,
And we did.
people.
We had tickets to the Husky game.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough.
So we were tailgating and then watched the Huskies beat Eastern Michigan or whatever team we
I had a
played that.
training that
Northwestern.
day.
Northwestern was who we played that day.
Yeah, I was the team of one at the post office last year.
Oh, you got them by yourself?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, cause it was like a mess, right? And I'm like,
Oh.
I don't know, I get tired of walking past it.
Yeah. The post office is its own thing when it's open,
Yeah.
because it's closed.
What? They're
Oh,
open?
you,
When
yeah,
are they open?
exactly. Okay, I thought you were gonna say what, they were closed, and I was gonna say
When are they
What do you
open?
mean they're closed?
they are closed on like a Monday all day or a Tuesday all day, and they'll just say, due to low staffing, we're closed. I'm
And-
like, this is a government building. I swear you can't do that. I went down to Sumner one day and I said, I need to send this off. I tried to go to the post office in Bonney Lake. They're closed. And the lady was like, what do you mean they're closed? Like, I don't know what authority they're given to close.
Yeah,
but you are a
Government.
federal
Yeah.
agency that's
Mhm.
being funded by taxpayers' dollars. You are not allowed to just be closed from 11 until 5 on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's
It's
like.
a real thing.
kind of
And when
along
it's
with the
closed,
banks,
you have
right?
to, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
They,
Yeah. They do it though. They just put like a handwritten sign out front,
yeah,
closed due to staff.
Yeah, I also, I have heard a lot of complaints about that
Yeah,
post location and
yeah,
my unfortunate thing is I contact your congressman.
yeah. I mean, that's not a
That's-
city thing, but.
There's nothing
yeah.
I can do to tell the post office to open up,
No.
so
no,
it's a real thing though.
It's a real thing.
Is,
I can verify on numerous accounts.
Wow.
is there anything else for my department that you got, that the committee has any questions about?
Not for me. Did we?
when's our next,
We're good.
committee meeting for wastewater?
Thank you, that was
Oh,
thinking what I was
yes,
supposed to
that-
mention is on the first, what would be our first CDC meeting in November. Trying to do from memory, November 5th, I wanna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, would be when we would do the next Jack, I believe that was the email, let's just double check here. And it would be at 4:30, and that was, I wanted to get with you and see if that would work, but let me double check on the date,
That's in November.
yeah.
Is it a half
4:30 instead
hour?
of 5.
Yeah.
We would go, it's an hour long, from 4:30 to 5:30, and then if we have time, we'll go into CDC real quick, but sometimes we'll just cancel CDC and do a Jack instead.
So, and the jack would be down there at the wastewater here this time?
This one, we were planning on just doing it like we did last time. And let the,
Virtual.
yeah, and then let the committee talk about dates for next year and locations and kind of work. Kind of let the council members, do that work. Instead of us at staff saying this is where you need to be. I just want to make sure I got the date right. Yeah, November 4th at either 4 or 4:30. Would 4:30 work better for you, Councilmember McClymans? Or do you try to do 4?
Anytime after like 2 o'clock in the afternoon is horrible. So
Yeah.
pick the time and we'll make it, right?
Okay.
Commuting from Seattle down here,
If
if I don't leave at like 1:30, then it's horrible.
we did 4, then we would be able to do a CDC that night. Cause we do 4 to 5 is the Jack.
4 is good.
And then 5 to
5 to
6, 6 would be the Jack.
Okay.
Okay.
So 4 to 9 o'clock.
I'll be with you the whole time. That's,
Appreciate it.
that's all we had. I'll get that back down to Sumner, then let them know we're okay with 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Can we get them to tell us how many, inspections they've done for the
Retreatment.
pre-treatment program?
Um,
And if they've written any tickets or anything?
I don't believe they have written any fines, but we can definitely add pre-treatment to it.
Anybody have anything else they want to discuss?
Did you approve the minutes from last week? I did not hear that.
Yes.
You did, okay.
What's that?
I'm just confirming you approved the minutes from last week.
Oh, yes, we did.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I guess we are adjourned.
10 minutes at a time?